So we're going to talk about a buttonhole patch. And why would you ever do that? Well, many times you've got a large button, and sewing machines do not make beautiful, really large buttonholes very often. So you can do it with a patch of fabric. Now, in this case, I have a material that doesn't ravel, so I've just cut it and sewed around it. Didn't have to turn it under. But when you need to turn it under, it's really hard to just turn little bit by little bit, regardless of what shape you're doing. So, and you can do any shape. So here's an idea for a square. It would get sewed to a piece of fabric and then turn through, like I've done here with this circle, like I've done here with just a piece of wool and this fun print. And then I zigzagged around it, so you can use any kind of stitching around it. But let's talk about how it's made. Oh, here's an example, another time that I've demonstrated this. So this is just an easy way to turn the cloth so that you get a nice shape. So I used organza to turn this little patch, and then sewed the patch to the wrong side of the fabric, and then it gets turned to the right side. Of course, it could be the reverse way. And then you attach it to the garment, and this is your buttonhole. So you are given fabric, a piece that will act as the garment, and a piece of organza that can be the turning cloth. And be aware, anything lightweight could, be the turning fabric. And this is what will become the patch. So 3 pieces for this. And you have directions in your binder. And I have no idea why 1/2 inch wide was put there. But, and also you don't have to always do the interfacing, for your sample. I have put some fusible interfacing underneath this, but you're going to want it wider, like about 3 inches wide. And then you're stitching whatever shape you want, and then making sure you cut through there and follow the rest of the directions. The PowerPoint will give you exactly step by step, which will be really helpful. And you can also see what it should look like. And the PowerPoint shows a garment a jacket that I've done it on with a mohair fabric, and I love the button, big button I got in Carmel, and it was the perfect thing. Organza patch will go to the wrong side of the fabric, if there is a right and wrong. I'm going to stitch around this, and my stitches are going to be pretty short for 2 reasons. I'm going to cut so closely and make sure that the stitching holds, but also because you could always go around curves easier and have it smoother if you have short stitches. So I'll go up to 1.5 for this stitch length. I've stitched around the circle. You can see it better from this side. I'm going to trim very close to the stitching. If you own pinking shears, this would be a good place to use them, because this is an outside curve, and taking pie-shaped wedges so that outside curves turn nicely is good. The next step is to cut through the organza so that I can use that for the place to turn and have the organza on the wrong side. Turn all the way through. I'll use the bamboo turner to keep working this out, and I'll use my fingers also to just kind of curl this so that I can see blue on the wrong side, knowing that the organza then won't show on the right side, of course. So I work with this quite a bit before I go to the iron. So I have pressed it so the organza is completely hidden underneath, and I can only turn it through that little slot there. And now I'm going to place some fusible web under there just to hold the slot closed. It doesn't have to be super closed up, but just a little bit there. And of course, I always use a press cloth when I'm doing anything with fusing. So I've drawn some lines on the organza side that I'll stitch beside, and take some time on this. I'm not quite sure if I've got this just the way it should look, but take some time. And I'll put the patch on the wrong side. I'll sew on those lines so that I can then turn it through. Okay, and this can be pretty short stitches because you're going to cut very close. Pivot on my needle. Make a little rectangle. Maybe an eighth of an inch wide. I don't think it matters. You just choose how wide you want this to be. Whatever you need for the size of your button. And I'm overlapping my stitching. Okay, and that's the way that little rectangle is looking. It looks like this on this side. This is the outside of the garment. I'll cut right in the middle of that stitching. And I'll try to go diagonally into the corners there. Sure, I've got cuts are all the way in. And turn this through to the right side. And very possibly this patch is going to be the same fabric as the garment or something contrasting. And I'll go press. The next step is to stitch the patch to the garment. And that can be done with straight stitching, decorative stitch, whatever you like. I think I'll choose a little narrow zigzag. So let me go to about a 2 stitch width, and I'm going to go to a 3 stitch length. I'm not quite sure if I'll like that, but let me take a couple of stitches that way to see if that's what I like. Maybe a little wider. Okay, so that's a face buttonhole.